Welcome, everyone, to the final episode of Season 2 of Bullhorns, Bullseyes. Curtis, this is it. Have we been renewed for Season 3? Do we know?
Well, we're garnering sponsors right now. I think we're going to get some support for Season 3. So long as we get that support, I think we can put together another set of episodes.
Awesome. Well, you heard the man. So if you're interested in supporting, contact us for sure. So you and I have been looking back at Season 2 and even Season 1, but Season 2 was kind of a heck of a season. You just went down off air, rattled off some of the guests that we've been able to get on this season. And I dare say it's kind of a who's who list of heavy hitters in the marketing industry.
I would say also in the theme, so people are going to be listening to this episode. We're going to be a week past Thanksgiving. We're recording here right before Thanksgiving. And so in the theme of Thanksgiving, I would like to put out gratitude to, these great guests for coming on our show. We had some best-selling authors on the show, some I'd say some big hitters in marketing who gave up some of their time to come on and talk to us and share with their audience things that they're seeing. Our biggest by views was Mark Schaefer, who's like going all in talking about AI right now, but from a very interesting angle. And so I think he's striking the chord with a lot of people in the marketing space, and what a treat it was to have him on the show.
It was.
And what did you say? He published 2 books in 2 months.
I think he may have gone all in on AI. I don't know. Because he was thinking, a lot of what I love about his content is he thinks out loud kind of in his newsletter. And he was basically thinking out loud whether he was going to write a book using AI. And I initially thought, no, that's a dumb idea. I wonder if he changed his mind, though, which you sent me that book in the spirit of gratitude. Thank you. I've gotten through it. All about AI and the human experience, how it's rewiring our customers. That's very interesting reads and very valuable. Go out and check that out as well.
I've got it on Audible, and he speaks in it. It's fun to listen to him.
He's got to tell the stories.
He's a good storyteller. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the key themes of Season 2. Our very first episode was storytelling and authenticity, and we kept coming back to this idea of storytelling. And that's one of the things I think, as I look back on 2025, it's something that maybe sounds old school, but I think there's a renewed emphasis on it. And we're seeing it even with our clients, because we are both big advocates for storytelling techniques. Not always, I always say, less boring selling, more storytelling. And of course that sort of rhymes, so I like it. But we're seeing this even, you and I were in a meeting today with a client that we partnered with on doing some videos, and they aren't commercials. They aren't come buy our product. They aren't, here's what, discount this week, hurry before supplies run out, any of that stuff. And it wasn't even a testimonial video. It told the story. And you shared I thought some amazing analytics numbers on how long people are watching the promoted paid placements for those videos.
Yeah, well, I think it was it 36 seconds of a 45-second video was the average watch time.
Average, right.
Average watch time, right. So
and people can skip after 6 seconds, right?
Right. So you can skip after 6, and they're getting to 36. But you had a great reason why. I thought your line was perfect, and you explained why. Do you remember what you said?
Well, I thought it was because they aren't commercials and they tell a story. And when the story starts right away, it engages you in the outcome. Well, you're going to want to see how the story ends, right?
That's exactly what you said. People want to see how the story ends.
You're
not trying to sell me, and I picked that up in the first 6 seconds.
Right.
The idea is to catch somebody's attention and carry them along so that they see the end of the story, right? It's why people watch a fishing video. Somebody going to because they want to see what they caught, right?
Right. Or does it get away? Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think you just need to extrapolate that out metaphorically into a broader sort of marketing approach, which I think will bear more fruit as we go forward in the age of AI, is if you can tell stories, real stories with real people that are going to engage real viewers because they have real interest in the genuine outcome, you're going to capture more people, I think, than AI slop that is just trying to get you to click a button, buy a product or whatever.
And we're going to do more of this in 2026, aren't we? So I think we experimented. Well, you've been doing this for a long time, but in a written way. And you brought me along for the ride now. And we're starting to incorporate, as you said, some of this into video content for our clients. And would love to be able to do some more of that here in 2026 and see where that goes. Heck, the podcast here is a form of storytelling, isn't it?
Yeah, because we've had clients come on, or Mario was back for his fifth appearance, and he had a story to tell just last week. But going back to applying the same approach, if you strip it all down to what makes a great story in the written word and what makes a great story in the video format, it's still why, how, what. Right? It's still like there's a struggle. That's the hero's journey. It's all right, there's a struggle. Somebody's been called to some sort of duty or action, and then we get emotionally invested in how are they going to solve this problem? And then ultimately, what's the outcome? And so why, how, what? It tells you, it works every time.
I had no idea. So I heard somebody recently I told you about, I saw on a podcast, marketing guru, 30 some years experience. And he had this line that most people in marketing, he thinks that they don't truly understand what marketing is until they hit about year 15 in their career.
Mm.
And I'm at about year 15 in marketing. I'm pretty
Ah.
close to that mark.
Mhm.
And I'm just starting to get it thanks to you. So I was like very relatable that what I thought I was doing as marketing, I feel like was a lot closer to sales. We've talked about
Yeah.
that, lead generation and conversions on websites and those types of things. It's so much of the marketing comes way before that. Awareness and interest and just reaching people and connecting with people and this empathetic side. And, you know, there there's not a whole lot of empathy in the thought process that all you're trying to do is get a sale.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Right. So
Yep.
and aren't the best salespeople usually empathetic?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's like, why don't, that Sandler training we use now, use that in your marketing and your thought process in marketing.
Yeah. And Sandler's, trying to uncover pain. And if you're trying to uncover pain, well, you've got to listen, right? Which a lot of poor salespeople don't do. And then be empathetic. So you can recognize when that pain's being authentically expressed. And then, the Sandler sales trainer will tell you to lean into that and sort of pick at the scab. But to your point, before that even opportunity presents itself, I think the smart brands are the ones that demonstrate that empathy in their marketing, which again goes back to why, how, what, which you speak at a high level in awareness, all about the people's why, what's motivating them, what's causing them pain, strife, whatever, or do they have wild ambitions, there's a why there. And if you can understand what that is and you can speak to it, then you're going to get more people invested in the story you're trying to tell, going back to that.
Hmm.
What are the other key themes um, ever since this came out? I wasn't even expecting it. We were in a conversation with somebody. Maybe you can remember. Again, I remember what they said. I don't remember who said it, but somebody coined the three A's, and it was attribution, algorithms, and arithmetic. And that stuck out as me as like both opportunities and both present problems. Attribution for sure, which we've discussed, but algorithms was a key thing that hit me this year. And I think it's because it's only gotten worse, where there's this algorithmic gatekeeper between me, say, or us, and the audience that we've already built and earned, right? It's like I've got some group of following on LinkedIn, say, but there's an algorithm standing between me and the people who have said, I want to hear what Tom has to say. And as a content creator, that's very frustrating. As a content consumer, it's becoming equally frustrating for me because I go to, say, Facebook, and it's the same 10 Yahoos in my feed at the top all the time. And that's okay. I like those Yahoos, but like I'm following thousands of people. How are you only giving me 10 people, the same 10 people every time I log out of Facebook? And it's gotten to the point where I hate to say this, as a creator and a consumer, I'm seeking other options. It's like this has gotten to be stale, and so I think a big challenge for me, for brands, and I want to hear your take, is what do we do then if these algorithms have become so tedious that they're no longer tolerable? Then what?
Yeah. Well, I think the algorithms have focused mostly on outcomes, right? So the algorithms are being trained on outcomes. So if your
Yeah.
outcome is a sale, a purchase, a lead form, or something like that, and then you think about top of funnel type content like thought leadership or storytelling that we're talking about here, if that doesn't lead to those outcomes inside of what we would call the attribution window, let's just take Facebook, for example, 7-day attribution window, right? So if you're using the new Andromeda Advantage Plus campaigns, you need like 50 conversions in a 7-day attribution window. Now, you could put your conversions as views, and it just optimizes for views in that specific campaign. But if your business goals are purchases or those types of things, it's going to favor the ads and the campaigns that lead to those types of things. So, I mean, I think there's pluses and minuses to this. I think in some cases, depending on the type of content, it's taking, or depending on the type of business, it's taken some of the guesswork out of what we have to do as marketers in order to build the right campaigns and sort of create that journey. We've talked about that journey being nonlinear and that it can go off
Right.
in a lot of different ways. And so if we could just come up with a hypothesis, or if we could just create content that might be possible journeys, and we just put that all into a central place within the platform, and then the algorithm figures out the right order and that journey, it's going to probably do a better job than what we can manufacture it on a whiteboard. And we're seeing that actually play out
Yeah.
successfully, both in Performance Max as well as Andromeda. I think LinkedIn right now is trying to figure this out, and they haven't yet.
Yeah.
And so it's been a real struggle over on LinkedIn.
I think so, yeah, and I think they're about to roll something out. It might be old news by the time people listen to this, but you mentioned one of the avenues. So if the algorithms are throttling your organic content, then one of your options is to pay for the reach that you thought you had already earned. And I think that's one of the key messages. And this is not groundbreaking news or anything, but it's like, all right, this is here to stay. And have been ways in the past, and Brian Clark alluded to one of them being engagement pods as a way to artificially boost your own organic content. I think those windows are sort of closing. So you need to be strategic about how much of your budget, if it's not sweat equity any longer, how much of your budget are you going to attribute to paying for the reach that you need to get? And then inside of that is the thing that you just unpacked, which is there's a whole new way to do that. And you got to get more sophisticated. The AI will be hopefully your advocate and your companion in that endeavor. But the old days, again, quoting Brian Clark, the golden age of organic reach is gone in
Hmm.
large.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's difficult, let's say that,
Mhm.
to get the organic reach that a lot of brands used to be able to get. You got to work really hard.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think Gary Vee said he has like 32 full-time staff members that are purely in charge of his social content. It's not Gary who's like holding up his phone, recording himself, and he's posting, right?
Right. That's
32
just
people.
that's for us commoners, right?
Yeah. So,
But he
and people are asking this, I got a full-time job. I'm trying to do this and this and this. How am I supposed to be able to, find time to create that content?
Yeah. Yep. So, I don't know if there's a trend or a takeaway from season 2 you wanna hit on. I've got a couple others, but wait, before maybe we segue off to that. No, I will put a pin in that. I will hold is there anything looking back at 2025 season 2, that sticks out as either a common thread or a particular aha moment?
Um, well, AIs was definitely, we mentioned, was a hot topic. Mark Schaefer, we talked about. Um, really how to leverage AI from a marketing perspective, adding your own sort of touch of humanity with whatever you're doing, um, with AI. And then we had on Jesse with Super Web Pros. I've gotten a lot of feedback that, that was more of the technical part of AI. There was a lot of acronyms, I think, in that episode: MCPs and APIs and A2A protocols and all kinds of crazy stuff. But
It was an
the future,
alphabet soup episode, I like to refer to it.
yes, it sure was. Not to be confused with the Sesame Street letter C episode.
That's right. C was for cookies that day.
Yes. Um, so I think that the future is quite interesting, and everyone's trying to, I don't want to say predict, but figure out what the next year or 2 years is going to be, particularly when everything sped so fast this year. I mean, there, you've got maybe 5 big players in the AI space as far as the agentic models go. And it seems like every week, one of those 5 is coming out with some new feature, functionality. It is this race to whoever can put together the best LLM and be the most helpful. It is really hard from a business decision to sort of make a decision because it's changing so fast. I made some investments in AI this year, and I feel like that was just 3 months ago, and it's already outdated.
Yeah. Right.
So that you can't even keep up with the technology right now.
It's amazing, and like you said, even those players trying to, like, leapfrog each other, I think I've been fascinated by the fact that Apple is lagging so far behind
Mm.
in this area, and it's hard not to wonder if Steve Jobs were still running the ship, where they'd be. And nothing against Tim Cook, or maybe it is, I don't know, but, they're getting outpaced so quickly, and what's gonna happen, one of 2 things is that that could really be trouble for Apple, although their iPhone sales are through the roof right now. Or what they've done in the past is they could take some massive leap that we don't see coming. They're working on
Mhm.
something and they come out with it. It's like when the iPhone came out and everyone was looking at their BlackBerry saying, "What? Why would I want this ugly thing with the buttons?" So that'll be interesting to see, you know. Um, I wanted to go back to pick your brain. So we mentioned, with algorithms and arithmetic and attribution getting more challenging. One of the ways is to overcome those is to invest some budget. And this is not either or, because I still think you need to keep your organic strategy in place. You can't abandon that completely. But then the third avenue is to go out and going back to own the land, right? Is this We've talked about the dangers of building on rented land and or the benefits of it, but I feel like this is something that we're going to look at in 2026 to kind of pull back the curtain just a little bit. Is how can you build something that is algorithm free for the most part, and that you own? So when, LinkedIn decides to change the rules tomorrow and you've invested all your chips in there and now you're like, "Ugh, now what do I do?" That's portable, right? And so I think that's going to be not only incredibly important, but I think it's going to start to become increasingly attractive to brands. Again, the golden age of organic being done, I think people are going to look around and say, I know I have to stay here because my audience is here, whether I like it or not. But what else can I go out and build for myself?" So I'm curious if that was a signal you took from the themes in this season.
Yes. It's something I noticed. I don't know if it was so much from the themes. I think we got a little bit from the themes, but the more that we've been marketing our own podcast and we've been putting out content, the more that I've seen that what we're up against, I guess. And I've had 3 times in the last week, I've had somebody email me with a request or just corresponding with me and making a side comment. Hey, I caught this episode on such and such, or hey, I've been following, nice work, whatever. And I had no idea that they were, so we've talked about this concept of lurkers before. And I think that part is really frustrating for me. I feel like the numbers lie a little bit. like the actual views and view times aren't accurate. In Spotify, I was looking at the numbers.
Yeah.
In YouTube, I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, these don't really match what other people are telling me. And I really just want to have that list. And I want to know that when I send that notification, people actually receive it. So we've been doing emails through LinkedIn, and I was all hot
Newsletters.
on this a year ago, right?
You mean
Yeah.
newsletters? Yeah.
The, right. The newsletter, the Amplify a Name newsletter. And so we asked people to subscribe on LinkedIn because it's so much easier within the platform to do that. And we could syndicate. And then I'm pushing out the newsletter and it doesn't end up in people's inboxes. And I have no visibility to know why. There's nothing in the platform that could tell me. And so, but if I had a HubSpot or MailChimp or I don't know if Substack does this, I could actually see, oh, my email did get delivered to inboxes. I had a 40% open rate. People actually clicked. I don't even care to know who, just that there's actual delivery.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the biggest frustrating thing for me this year is putting so much work into this and want to serve and make sure that our audience gets to see the content, but I'm afraid they're not.
Yeah. And if they are, like, you're getting anecdotal signals that they are that you're not seeing, like you said, that's frustrating too. Because yeah, I used to pour over. I had a email newsletter years ago, and I used to pour over every single open report and click report, um, and it was not because, all right, I saw so and so open this email 3 times and clicked on 2 articles, so now I'm going to stalk them and say, hey, do you want to buy? Do you want to hire me because you're loving my content so much? I think that's maybe a mistake that people make, but just having the visibility into it is an encouraging signal to say this is at least doing the first thing, which is awareness, and it's hopefully, obviously, it's doing the second thing, which is interest, because those are self opt-in clicks. Um, if I'm doing my job right on the content side, then that should be moving them into desire. From
Hmm.
there, now it becomes a function of sales, as we've mentioned in the past, right? So I agree. And you mentioned Substack. I think that is um, something I personally want to pursue next year, and maybe even for this podcast. So stay tuned for that.
I'm excited. I, I have an account on Substack. I've subscribed to a few things on there. I wouldn't say I frequent Substack very often.
I'm the same.
Um, I think it's untapped in many ways, and I don't know. Maybe there's something there. I guess we'll dig
Well,
for some gold and see if we find any.
one of their big selling points, if you could call it that, is that they call it algorithm free, which sounds really appealing. It's actually better than that. It's sort of, to kind of make a long story short, they have skin in the game if you start generating revenue from your newsletter. So the only thing that their algorithm is going to do is try to increase the exposure or your content to the right audience, because they got skin in the game. That sounds really good. Instead of the algorithm throttling your content back, it's going to try to get it out in front of more people who they think are genuinely interested in your content. So that that sounds like a business model for me. I'm signing up, literally. Well, I already signed up, like you said, but now I'm going to put my chips in, I think, a little bit. So
Yeah, you said something to me that was interesting and I feel like is accurate. The platforms want to keep you in platforms, so they penalize you if you're sending people out. And that's maybe part of the algorithm that throttles us. Could be that if people are clicking to go watch the episode in YouTube or go listen on Spotify and they don't stay in the platform, then they just lost that user for that session. Now they can't serve them ads, they can't do, anything else. Um At the same time, though, I feel like social media is conditioning us, if that's the case, and they're awarding people who stay in platform. What do the users do? They just sit there and scroll. And we're just becoming like mindless attention. Uh, I don't know. What's the phrase I'm looking for here? We're just, we're like bots ourselves, just
sometimes,
scrolling.
yeah.
Yeah. Looking for, uh, to get us out of boredom or something like that. And there's something to be said for long form content. Like, people are surprised that somebody can sit through a 3-hour Joe Rogan podcast. It's like, well, it's obvious people do. He continues to produce 3-hour podcasts, and I think people are learning from that. And so, uh, I know people watch our shorts, but it's not the shorts that I want them to consume. That short is really the gateway to the long form content, where we have the opportunity to have a guest actually educate them on a piece of content, and they can learn. And they're not gonna learn very much in a 30-second short.
Agreed.
So,
Yep. I think I would love to believe, and I do believe what you said is true. I think it's going to take some time. I even heard my kids talk about how this quick hit adrenaline TikTok universe is starting to drag on them, and that they're seeking opportunities to have more enriched long form type of experiences online. I Now, time is a finite resource, so that means people will be doing fewer things if they're doing longer versions of those things. So, and I think that's what we're going to see in the next, say, 5-year windows. I think people are going to gravitate towards, and maybe they're already doing this, deeper experiences with the types of content that they have deep interest in, as opposed to what you said at the beginning, which is just the scrolling mindlessly, hope something catches my attention. How much content goes past your eyes but not into your brain? And I think, what's the value of that? So again, that might be old man Nixon, shaking his fist at the clouds, but it might be, there's something to that. The human brain is not wired to process the way information the way we are currently. And so do we do we rewire our brains, or do we take it back to its natural state? I think, and I hope, and I know for me personally, I am going to consciously make that effort. I'm going to get, listen to longer podcasts, spend hardly no time on X, which I was a huge time suck for me in the last 5 years. Um, because of that very reason. So, what does that mean? Now, let's just suppose that I'm right or you're right, and we've observed something that is going to be the trend. Content creators need to think that way then, right? And they need to create, going back to these longer form, immersive stories that aren't just looking for a quick hit sale, lead gen, adrenaline hit, attribution, blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, let's build an audience, going back to what Brad Clark said in his episode. Audience first, right? So,
yep, yep.
um,
And like you said earlier, have it be story driven so that people want to see the outcome.
yep,
And
yeah.
there is an art to that. There is an art to that, putting together a piece of content that has an arc where, you can, and every movie has it, right?
True.
The beginning, the middle, and the end,
Do
and
you ever
that
find
hero's
yourself
journey.
binging a show that you had no intention of binging? So my wife and I, just last night, watched the last 3 episodes. So like 3 hours and 45 minutes of content on a 10 episode story that we have been watching for probably 3 months. But all of a sudden, we got so invested, going back to that, into how this turns out, we couldn't put it down. We couldn't walk away. We couldn't hit escape. We couldn't hit skip on the play. Right. So that's the trick to affect the storytelling. And that's also the trick. Again, I think less boring selling, more storytelling is going to be the theme going forward. And if you want to know
Maybe
what show
maybe
that
we should
was,
teach people how to do that, Tom, or
eh,
you should teach people how to do that
well,
on this
we
podcast.
should, because there's right brain and left brain applications for this.
All right.
Yes. That's show, by the way, was Department Q, if anyone's looking for a recommendation. Um, on Netflix. So they're our sponsor for season 2, or season 3 rather. Their season 2. So what else? So any other key themes or observations as we look back on a really fun season 2?
It was fun. I think there was, just getting out of themes, there was some fun conversations we had. Um, we had a great conversation with Ginny Dietrich, inventor of the peso model. And a little bit of storytelling there was how I purchased uh, went through the process in an attribution window of buying a gas can. Did buy it,
Yes.
changed my life.
Yep.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
What
I'm gonna have
caught
to
your
record a
eye?
video of it.
Do you remember what caught your eye initially? How you got into the attribution window? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it was a Facebook ad, and it was a video, and it was the simplicity. They showed the application of how it's used, uh, that solves my specific problem.
So they leaned into pain. They told a little mini story, right? And they showed a happily ever after, and
Yep,
you were hooked.
yep. Yeah, well, I went and watched a few other videos
Yep.
just to
Sure.
confirm. I did a little research just to confirm it was. I did want to make sure it wasn't too good to be true, and then I did wait for a coupon,
Yep.
and
Little
I
life hack
was
for you.
and there was a specific color I wanted that never did come in stock. I wanted an orange one to match my Kubota orange, but I ended
Yep.
up going with hunter green with an orange cap. So I
There
know
you go.
those are diesel, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't mix up when you're on the farm. You can't mix up your diesel with regular gas,
Understood.
and so you
Yep.
got to use different colored gas cans for that. But no, it was revolutionary. The first time I used it, I mean, no more finger pain, no more awkward trying to hold the thing above the tractor for 5 minutes. The whole thing drained out in like a minute. It was amazing. It's like,
Did you
where have you been my whole life?
when you were in the shopping phase, did you consider other brands or products competitors?
Not really. No, I don't even think I looked.
That's how you market before the sale, right? When
Hmm.
you understand the pain and you're the one that can clearly articulate that not only do you understand the pain, you empathize with that person experiencing the pain and you'd like to guide them away from it. You've got that customer already. You're not on the bid list. You are the vendor. So
Hmm.
now it's just negotiating price. So
Yeah.
you did a little research, right? And then you said, all right, it's not too good to be true. It's worth X amount of dollars. Let's go. And
Yep.
even if I think if you're in the B2B world, that is, I think the mindset that you need to have is that you're doing marketing now, not for a sale today, but so that when the right person comes in market tomorrow, they've already eliminated the competitive field. It's you,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So that story was told in a 7-day attribution window and we had a
But
happy
that
ending.
was a fun conversation. We had a fun conversation with Janet Tyler, who's goes way back with you, and then ends up turning out I knew her as well from a previous life,
That was, yeah,
and we had cross paths at one time. We had a fun conversation about the disruption of AI, what's happening with agencies, and in the middle of the episode, you guys got me really thinking about family businesses. And I posted this here recently, a clip of it, but it's stuck with me since then, and thought about it a lot. Of this, that my children. Speaking of children here, and wanting to get off social media and those types of things, my kids don't want to go to college. And I remember in the '80s and '90s, like that was everything, right? You go to college, and then
yeah,
it's like, where could I start my life? I'm one of four kids. All of us left small town Illinois. Two ended up in California. One was in northern Wisconsin, and I ended up in downtown Chicago, and then here in north of Detroit, Michigan.
yeah.
None of us stayed home. My kids, and I'm hearing this from other people, their kids want to stay home and they want to learn from mom and dad. What do you guys do to make money? What's your business all about? Hey, what do you think about me learning that? And could I learn that without putting $150,000 into a college education? That more and more people, I think, are thinking about that. And, are we going to re enter an age where kids don't leave, that communities stay close, tight? We can work remotely if we need to. Um, Probably a lot of the jobs you had to be in person are going to be replaced by AI if you went off somewhere. And maybe it does become more financially viable for you to stay in the family business or to start a family business. And that's what I'm thinking about now, based off what my kids want to do. What if we
I mean,
start a family business? Because they're not
yeah,
interested in marketing. I at first was like, hey, maybe I could get them into marketing, but they're not into marketing. So,
yeah. But that's interesting though, because that appeals to you as a father too, right? To raise your kids in a family business. I'm the same way. I think I've kind of shared sort of my idea for doing something similar. But it's interesting. because of AI, do we need, and this sounds horrible, because I fear that this is true and it's not entirely great, but do we need to learn facts? Do we need what used to come out of a typical college education? Now, if you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, yes, absolutely. But you need to learn how to learn. And I learned more on my first day in PR, right, when I got thrown into the fire, than I did at 4 years of college in terms of what my career was going to be, right? I, I had no design on doing that's what I'm doing now. I got into marketing, by by chance, right? So it's interesting, especially now at AI, we don't have to memorize things, right? I mean, we still should be studying history so we learn from it, but we don't need to know I don't even know what year the War of 1812 was. So I'd have to ask ChatGPT, right? So it's interesting, but I think there's business opportunities, family business opportunities for things that humans can uniquely deliver. Um, and my idea is, I think that. So it'd be interesting to see what you and your kids come up with. Now you have one on the horizon. Is she seriously considering not going to college?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, so she would still take online classes, not from a college, but in a specific skill set. So she's considering
Interesting.
health, like her mother, Stephanie's in health. And Stephanie, over the last couple years, has gotten some certifications that you can do online. And so Brooke is thinking of starting that and seeing if she likes it. And then if she does, she could continue that path. Like you just said, in health, doctors, certainly we're going to need trained professionals. So this isn't a skill that she's going to learn from ChatGPT or something like that. She still needs to learn the skills, but the skills are offered in the training. Many now are in apprentices. So she's had two offers already, I believe two. One for sure. We've already talked to one physician who has a functional medicine practice in Utah, lives on a farm, and he has an apprenticeship program on his farm. So how cool is that? That people can. Sorry, I'm having some problems with my camera here for some reason. People can go and visit the farm and learn from him. They don't go visit; they actually, live there, stay there,
Right.
and
Yeah.
he trains them. But then they learn more than just uh, health and wellness from a body perspective. They learn nutrition and raising animals and growing food and all these other things that are part of that cycle of life that we really should all know about and our ancestors knew about.
Right. Yeah. Fascinating. Well, I will tell listeners that this young lady is brilliant. So if you think she's trying to get out of college because she doesn't like to learn, that is not the case.
No.
That would be the case with my son, but so that's fascinating. So, anyways, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think people are already kind of, like you said, discarding in many cases the old model, which was just we did it almost automatically without thinking. Get good grades, go to college, get married, have a family, get a good job. It used to be stay at that job for 50 years, get a golden parachute, but so much has changed. That college dynamic is, I think, going to change very quickly. Not as quickly as AI, but very quickly. Where
Yeah,
that's going
I
to,
think the cost associated with it and then the return and this perpetual cycle, I think, of being in debt and then forever staying in debt. Like let's say you go to Denver or you go to Chicago or San Francisco, somewhere where there's a job opportunity. A lot are going to Texas. You're paying rent till you're 35. You're finally when you get a mortgage, it's like, but you're getting your mortgage and you're still paying off your college
right.
debt,
Yep.
right? And I know my grandparents, they bought everything with cash. You didn't buy that new car until you had the 2 grand to buy it. And so, I hear young people are reading Dave Ramsey and taking Dave Ramsey courses and just, I think, thinking about things differently, which is good. And I think these cycles probably happen
Yep. Yeah,
in
for sure.
generations, right? We maybe learn from our past and try something different. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But AI is certainly pushing our youth into a direction, and it's going to be interesting to see where that direction goes.
Absolutely. Well, and speaking of being interesting, in terms of the direction we go, um, that's pretty much a wrap on season 2, but what should we be thinking about for season 3? You got anything in mind other than getting the lead sponsor so we can turn a buck? Just kidding, of course. No, but so looking ahead, I told you mine. I think community building is going to be a theme for next year, and then we'll get into more detail on that. Storytelling, of course, will continue. Um, you mentioned Andromeda, is it? And some of the
Hmm.
new advertising platforms on LinkedIn, Facebook, and others. That's going to be interesting to watch and study. What else should we be expecting next year?
Yeah, I would like to put together a series of episodes on one specific topic that actually does educate on how to do something. So again, just thinking if somebody wanted to binge watch 10 episodes,
Hmm, I,
let's give them that opportunity to do that instead of random topics. And they're not random. I mean, we're staying in our genre and our niche of marketing. But to
but they
actually
aren't
show,
sequentially serial, right?
yes, yeah, to put together a sequential sequence of content, hopefully with different guests who can bring their perspective, but that if somebody wanted to follow that, that they would have the tools to actually put in practice, maybe. That's a goal for me. Like, could we educate that they would have the tools to put in practice if they wanted to sit through 10 episodes and to put the work in to accomplishing something? Could they do it? That's what
Like a
I would
mini
hope to be
course.
able to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a mini course. All right,
yeah,
I'm down. Do you have a topic identified?
you do.
Oh, uh, now you're really pulling the curtain back. Here I am playing dumb, which is of course the part I was born to play. Um, but yes, we've got something up our sleeves, ladies and gentlemen. So you'll have to come back for season 3 with our lead sponsor. We don't know if it's going to be Coca-Cola or Pepsi. Oh, have I said too much there? The last question remains, Curtis. Season 1 was White Hat. Season 2 was Black Hat. Are we getting a new hat for season 3?
I am planning a trip to the Boot Barn here with my daughter, my youngest daughter, a little shopping spree. And so we will look and see what we find.
That's about as good a cliffhanger as I can imagine. Should we leave it there?
Let's leave it there.
All right,
Other than
y'all.
to say thank you, partner, for season 2, coming on
Yeah.
this journey with me, inviting me on this journey, which you
Yeah.
did. I
I
appreciate
think
that.
I guilted you into it, but yes, that was mere semantics. Thank you for having me on for 2 whole seasons, and I think you've agreed to season 3. Thank you to the listeners and viewers and commenters. We appreciate it. And last cliffhanger, you will have more opportunity to comment and let your voice be heard next season. With that, happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you in season 3 of Bullhorns and Bullseyes.